the folder structure which is getting created by using your white bundle tool. So what is the use of, what is the use of each and every file, including the white config, the ESLint config, the git ignore src node modules, like every other file, including the dist files we already discussed, right? So any questions up to there? And everyone could able to create your own folder structure, right? You could able to create your own project within your local systems. Okay, nice, good. So, on the top, mm, okay, let me start our project here. I think we are already done with the data binding, and we are clear with how do we iterate the content. But when we are iterating the content, well, like what if like you would like to add the conditions? Okay, let me open the notepad. Okay, so let's discuss on while okay, you can say something called as how to add conditions while binding data to UI, and how to iterate over the JSON object. Okay, so these are the two main things we'll discuss, and we even talk about we start about something called as hooks. Under that, we'll talk about what do you mean by use state. Okay, so that is one of the main hook we have. What do you mean by state of a component, and how do we store the content inside the state? That we'll be discussing on it. Uh, in interview, how ask this one? You mean to say, Ravi, like in interview, how they are going to ask the question regarding this? Is that is what your question is? Okay, I mean, it is straightforward, right? Uh, the straightforward question, what you might be asking is they will be asking about explain the structure. Okay, so when you say that how you have created the folder structure, how you have created the folder structure for the complete project. Obviously, we'll be saying that as React 19 is the one what we are using, the latest one. From the latest, instead of using the Webpack JS file or Webpack bundler, it is depending on the white JS bundler. Okay, and using your white JS bundler, when we want to create a project, does anyone remember, everyone remember, like what is the uh, command we were using to create a project here? What it is starting with? Anyone? How do we create? NPM. Okay, next. Everyone is saying just NPM. What is the next line? NPM create, NPM create white at the rate latest. Okay, what next? Template React. Okay, that's nice. So we were using the command something called as npm create white at the rate latest. And we were saying that you will be using the template called as React. So the interview question, what they will ask you is, okay, first of all, how do you create the folder structure? This is what you say. This is the command what we say. npm create react so and so, and what is the name of the project you have, and we are going to specify hyphen template and the React. Okay, this is how the folder structure is getting created. Now they will ask you that, okay, under the folder structure, what are the files which are getting created? Under white config, what changes you'll be having. Under ESLint, what changes you're having. What is package JSON? What is package log.json? So that could be one of the interview question. At the same time, they may also ask you a question, something like, there are some ES version. I need to make sure that I am following the latest ES version. Okay, the ECMA version I would like to follow. Now, what is the location where I'm going to change the ECMA 6 version changes? Is it is under white config or is it is package.json? Now, the question could be something like this also. Then you need to say it is under the like esconfig.js. Okay, okay, so this is where you're actually going to add the version of it. So that is how that question could be. Okay, yeah, and at the same time, there could be a question something called as what is data binding? Can you explain what is data binding? Okay, so that then you can go for that. Okay, so coming back to this, in order to explain this guy, we have already created the Netflix project. Instead of this Netflix, let me go with the other project here. Uh, okay, I will go with CMD. Okay, I want to create a separate project here, something called as React Web App. So that like whatever the new changes we are going to see, instead of, I mean, not to disturb the existing Netflix project, we are going to create a separate project here. So in order to create a separate project, what I can say, npm, so create white at the rate latest. Okay, so you're going to create a project and we are going to make use of the latest white version. And what is the name of the project you have? The project name what we have is uh, React hyphen web app or web application. Okay, this is how I'm going to say. And as I mentioned you, the project name should not be starting with the uppercase letters. And I'm going to say that hyphen template. The template what you need to use to create this project is React. And here we can actually mention this React, what is 19 point so and so, or like if it is 20 point so and so, 18, whatever the version, you can actually mention it. But, or else you can just mention it as React, it automatically takes the latest. Okay. Now, once I click on enter, it is going to ask me, it is going to install the package like create React, which is 7.1, I mean the white version. I say yes. And it is asking, boss, which framework you're going to make use. I'm going to make use of the React here. And are you going to with the React with TypeScript or JavaScript? We would like to go with JavaScript as of now. Click on enter. It is done. It even saying that boss, the path folder got created. If you go here, React Web App is the folder, and this is all been created by default. Now, can I start with npm start here? No, because the main thing what we need to have is now if I go here, I says, okay, if we say cd react web app, okay, I say npm run dev. Okay, now once we click on enter, it is going to say that boss white is not recognized as the internal command because like we were using some white with port number so and so. But now what I have to do, I need to, uh, I need to install the node modules, whatever it is needed. The node modules are already been specified under the package.json. Now what I can say simply npm install. That's it. Okay, just give us some command, something called as npm install. So once we add this command, it is going to install all the node modules. Okay, this is how it is. And okay, this is done. Now when I can say npm run dev. That's it. Now it is, see, this is the port number where actually it started running from. Now when I say this, Okay, so this is how the React project is running. Hello, Mr. Alex. Welcome to the page. The sum of value is 70. Why the reason this guy is coming? Okay. Did he added the project with a different part, or we already have a React web app? Oh, this is not the one what we have created. We created this React web hyphen application, right? Okay. Confusion. Okay, vccd dot dot vccd React hyphen web application. This is the new one what we created. We have already created this React hyphen web app and we have done some changes there. Okay, npm run. Okay, we need to say npm run dev. When I'm doing this npm run dev, again, we have not used the npm install here. I say npm install. Okay, I say npm run dev. So that's where I had a question like why it is starting with the 5000. You know that, right? How come it has started with the port number? Is it is possible to change the default port number, guys? Is it is possible to change the default port number? Yes. How do we do the changes? Where do we do the change in order to run the port number? So if you remember, we have already discussed that under your package.json. Okay, so if you see React Web App is the project, under that if you go to package.json, under this, if you go to your package.json, this is where we have. So earlier, if you see the existing package.json we have, this is how it is. Dev is just white. Okay, npm run dev in the sense it will automatically use the white to start it. But if you mention white space hyphen hyphen port number, whatever the port number you want, then it start working on the particular port number. Okay, it is possible. This is again a good question that by default, what is the port number where the white is going to execute the application? So by default, 5173 is the port number. Then what if like you want to change the port number? Then you can simply say, this is how you have. Okay. Now this is how the complete application, I mean, simple application which got created. Now let me open this. As I mentioned, anytime you're working with the project, don't do this drag and drop options. Instead, completely import the project into this, into the VS Code. Now I go with the open folder. React Web Application is the new one. Mm, okay, so this is what we have. But yeah, I can drag and drop this folder. Okay, so this is okay. Let us start with this. We already know that like where actually this guy is coming from. Whenever you say package.json, the very first thing what actually goes is we white with start, and the first file which gets loaded is the index.html. But index.html is going to trigger this main.jsx, and under the main.jsx, you're going to have this app component which is getting loaded. And how this app component which got loaded, it is coming from the app.jsx file. Okay, and if you see under this app.jsx file, this is all the piece of code we have, I mean, which is creating that white link, etc. If I remove this, I say our React app ready to go. Okay, just save this and set use state and all. I'm not bothered about right now. And whatever which is not being used, we can just remove this, save it, and come back. This is how what we have created. Okay, now we are about to do the changes on the. Now let us see what actually this what actually this strict mode is going to get added. Okay. So what is the strict mode tag or component we can say? If you see, this is again a component, right? This is one of the predefined component what we are using from the React module. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. From the React module. If you see, when I say something called as import strict mode from React, obviously there is something which is already been added under your React module, and I'm going to import that component and I'm going to make use. If you see, app is the component which I'm importing from app.jsx file. So who created it? We created this component. We are already familiar with how do we create our own custom component, isn't it? Okay. Now, when I go with something called a strict mode, what actually it is doing? So the main intention of adding the strict mode is whenever you're compiling the code, in what versions it is going to compile. Whenever you say something called a strict mode, it is going to compile the React application 2 times. Okay, whenever you are going to make use of the strict mode, it is going to compile the complete piece of code in actually two times it is going to compile it. One is for the dev version and one is the production version. Okay, let us have a look on this. For example, under this component, I'm saying something called as console.log hello app component got loaded. Okay, let's have a look on this. Now, when I say save this guy and execution already happened, when I inspect this guy, you're going to see that, okay, let me remove this. And once I reload the page, if you see here, am I getting executed? If you see like why the reason it got 2 times loaded, boss? I have given the console for once and the component got executed only once. Now, if you see, this is how the component is coming. App is the component. Okay. What if like I want the same component for multiple times? You see here, I say app component. Any number of times you can add it. Now I have added it for multiple times. Now once you reload the page. So how come it is 4 times? Obviously, 2 times you added. In general, it has to show the console log message to be loaded only twice. But why the reason it is 4 times? Because internally, when you mention this as a strict mode, it is going to execute the application for twice. One is for the development version. The development version is the version which is actually being currently we are using. And the second version, what actually it does is it is even going to create a version for the production. So, I mean, the piece of code, what we are going to take and we deploy into the server for the actual deployment that we call it as a production ready code. So whenever you say strict mode, it is going to do it for once, sorry, twice. Okay. And not just only this, anything like we have something called as, okay, use effect and all. There are some other components, even when we use those components, those all components gets executed twice. Now, instead of this, what if I say, no, I would like to purely go with only the what do you say, normal mode. I don't want to go with any strict mode here. Okay, I want to go with the development version here. Only the development what I'm doing here. Okay, now once you reload this guy, you see once I'm reloading, it is getting executed only once. Now, if I use the component for multiple times, if I use the component for multiple times, do you see an error here? Why the reason it is error? Obviously, when you're returning a fragment, it has to be a, when the markup is being written, the markup has to be under a fragment here, isn't it? So it has to be something like this. Okay, save this guy, come back, and you see it is getting loaded for twice. Are you clear? So this is again a very good interview question. People, guys, can someone like whenever I'm saying something called as interview question, can someone can note it down and list out some inside in the document saying that okay, what all the interview questions we are discussing, so that it will be easy for you at the last to check that what are the questions being discussed and easy to go with all before going with the interviews for review. Okay, so this is how we are going to add this. It is not mandatory that it has to be in the strict mode, but when we say strict mode, it is going to execute the application for two versions. Uh, One is the dev version and other is the production ready version. Okay. Okay. What next? Okay, so this is the app component what I'm going, and under this app component, I would like to go with something called where say some student details. Okay, I would like to go with some hard-coded student details where I'm going to say some name as Raj, age as 20, I say gender as something called as male. Okay, this is the data what I'm defining, and let us make it in a single row. Okay, let us define some multiple row data here. Okay, this is the data what I have. Our expectation is the data what we have. Okay, I have a question here. Please repeat once again strict mode. It is very simple, Ravi. Okay, before going with the strict mode, do you understand what do you mean by the development environment and production environment? Are you clear on this? Is everyone is clear on this? Yes, no. If not, let me know, guys. No, then you should ask this question, right? Okay. So what do you mean by this development version? The version where actually the developer is going to work at the time of development. Now, do you think that, for example, whatever this main.js6 we created, or else the complete React web application, whatever we created, do we think that we are ready with that? I mean, ready for the deployment to the production? No, right? We have started working on it. We are doing some changes for that. So that is what we call it as a development version. So in the development version, the main thing what we have is it is not going to be compiled. I mean, it is not going to do the minification process and all. Because when we are coming into the logs in the browser, when we want to do some logging, when we want to debug something, if it is getting converted into minification code, obviously we don't understand anything, isn't it? If you remember, I was doing something called as npm run build in the last class. It is creating a dist folder. It is creating a complete folder structure with index.html and all the JS files and CSS files. If you go into the JSS file, that JS file, that is going to have all the compiled version, isn't it? Which is not at all readable. It is readable, but it is not understandable directly to the end user, isn't it? So now how you are going to work on that? Now, if it is not understandable for the user while development, I can't do any changes, right? If there is some issue or something, I can't work on it. So that is the reason in case of your development version, it won't be completely compiling the piece of code into minification, but it only compiles it to check the syntactical errors, etc. things. Now, when it is coming to the production environment, what is production environment? The version, the piece of code which is ready for deployment into the server. We can take this piece of code, put into the server, start working on it. That is what we call it. It is a production ready code. Are you clear with these two things now? Is everyone clear with what is the difference between the development ready and the production ready? Everyone, right? No questions. Okay. Now, whenever we are going to run the application under the what do you say? Under the strict mode, under the strict mode. If we say the strict mode, so whenever we are going to keep this under the strict mode, this is open tag and a close tag. So this is a component. Can I call this as a component? Can I call this as a component, guys? Obviously, yes, right? This is how you're going to make use of the component. Now, whenever we are using this guy as a component, what this will do is it the code, generates code in two versions, which is development and production. Okay. It generates the code in both the development version and the production version. Then you may say that, boss, when I'm saying that the strict mode, so every time do I have to keep the strict mode or not to keep the strict mode? You need to keep the strict mode. Okay, that is fine. Now, when I'm keeping the strict mode, it is generating two versions. One is in the development version and the production version. Now, in case of your development version, you see what is happening whenever I reload this guy. If I put any console and all, it is coming for twice because it is doing for the development and production. Okay. Now I don't want to go with the development. I want to only go with the production. Do I need to remove the strict mode? No, no. You keep the strict mode. You take the same piece of code, put into the production. Now that will automatically make sure to compile only once if it is a production mode. Okay, so every time keep the strict mode on. In general, if you're doing in your local, you don't want to go with uh, compiling it for multiple times, then you can go with the strict mode removed here. Okay, you can just remove the strict mode and you can just compile your piece of code when it is only development. But if it is production, keep the strict mode and add it. It will create the development version following with the production version, and both will be, I mean, it will automatically make sure how do we not to create the other version when it is the production. In case of production, it is only going to execute only once. Only in the development, it is going to show both production and the development environment. Is everyone clear now? Is everyone clear about what is the use of the strict mode? No questions? Okay. Okay, someone needed a notes here. Okay, we can add the notes like this. So what we can say is, so strict mode is a predefined component. So we are not creating it. Is a predefined component using which, I mean, okay, helps in generating or compiling code in both dev version and production version. Okay. And a strict mode is a predefined component comes from React module, isn't it? So when I'm saying that it's a predefined component, from where actually we are using it? We are using it from the React. You see, in the initial state, I'm using a import the strict mode component, which is from your React. Okay. Okay. Mean for prod, we can note it as strict mode. If you want to have the prod version, for sure you need to have the strict mode. If you remove the strict mode, it will be only the development version. That is the reason it is mandatory that you need to keep it. Okay, but yeah, in case of development, people remove that. But later, when you go into the production, they keep it. But if you keep it every time, it works both for the version and the production version. The only thing is, it will be doing it for twice. That's it. Okay, this is what the student details I have. Our expectation is I would like to show the student details. Okay, assume like I would like to go with some H3, say some student registered student details. Okay. And our expectation is I would like to show in the form of a table. We already knew that anytime if I want to go with the table, we'll be using the table tag. And in order to render this content, I don't need to go with the DHTML operations. If it is plain JavaScript, we will be using the DHTML operations in order to render this. But now instead of this, we go with something called as table header, T head. Okay, under that, we are going to go with some TR. Under that, we are going to go something called as TH. Now, what was that? It is the student name. Okay, we say that student age, we say that gender. Okay, this is what we have. Now, I would like to go with something called the T body, T body, and under that, I'll go with the TR and all. Now, the expectation is under this T body, multiple TRs has to be created, isn't it? Now I need to iterate over the array. When you're iterating over, then you're going to read the data and you're going to render the content on the page. Now I say a expression. Under that, I say something called as a tr. Okay. Under that, I'm going to, okay, sorry. Before that, I need to use the map method here. What I'm going to say, this student details dot map method like this. Under this, we are going to specify what the TR has to be created. Under that, the TD has to be created. The TR has to be created. Uh, the TD has to be created. And every time I'm going to get the detail, individual student detail, we can say. And here I'm going to mention this is, uh, first of all, I need to have the index also, the student, sorry, the serial number. Okay, I say TH, which is serial number. And how you're going to get the serial number here? I can simply say dollar index. Okay, under that, the TD, I'm going to say the detail dot name, TD, the detail dot age, the TD, detail dot gender. Okay, so we have something right, dollar dot index. Okay, let us run this index. Okay, so if you see here, this is how you're going to get this table in this format. But why the reason it is coming into the center? Because if you go into this app.css, we already have some set of CSS which has already been included. I don't want to go with this default CSS. Remove this. This has been given by our white. Whenever we are creating the white React app, that is how it is using. And this is, but still it is having some of the CSS which is getting overridden under the assets. There is something called under the public. No, index.css. You see, this is also having some CSS. I'm just removing them because every default thing, just remove it. We are going to add our own piece of look and feel changes. This is how the table is coming. Now you see it is starting from the zero index here. I would like to go with incrementing that where it will be index. plus 1 because we are expression it is. As it is an expression, it is not just going to get the data, but it is capable of evaluating that. It is going to evaluate that. Okay, this is how it is saying serial number so and so. But my expectation is I would like to render this table by using some responsive. Okay, in order to inject the responsiveness to this, we can go with any of the predefined CSS library. The very most common, which you guys are mostly familiar with, which is your Bootstrap. And yes, you can even go with Material UI. You can go with something called as Tailwind and all. Tailwind, like someone was asking, like, why don't we use Tailwind? Because if it is Tailwind, I need to start explaining what actually Tailwind and all. And Tailwind is not completely 100 percentage. It is free of cost. It is a paid version. So that's the reason. I mean, I will still show you how do we use the Tailwind. But initially, our main concentration is on understanding the React things. That is the reason I'll be going with the Bootstrap now. Later, I will even change that and we'll go with Tailwind also. Okay. Now, I would like to make use of the class, which is class name table. This is your Bootstrap. I said table hyphen bordered. Okay, this is the table what I would like to go for. But when you render, it is not still rendering in the form of Bootstrap. Why so? Bootstrap is not even installed. Now, how do you go with installation of the Bootstrap here? We simply say npm install Bootstrap. Okay, and we need to say something called as hyphen hyphen save. What this hyphen hyphen save is going to do, it is going to add an entry under the package.json. Now, if you see, when we go to our package.json, what all the current dependencies we have, which is your React and React hyphen DOM. But now when I say npm install Bootstrap and save here, it will be adding the latest Bootstrap and the entry for the Bootstrap is already been done inside your package.json. So whenever I'm giving this package of this complete application to someone, they don't need to manually say npm install Bootstrap. They will simply say npm install, automatically Bootstrap also will be included in it. Okay. Yeah, so this is how we are going to install. Now, when you say this npm install Bootstrap, instead of adding this guy into every other application, every other component, we can simply say import Bootstrap from what it is Bootstrap. So this is how we are going to install it. Okay, so now when we go for this, is it is getting installed. Sorry, it is npm start. Sorry, npm run dev. I see some questions. Spelling of Bootstrap. Is it is wrong? Obviously. Bootstrap. Okay. So where is wrong here? Okay, here it is. Import Bootstrap from Bootstrap. The requested module does not provide an export name default. Okay. Then we say this, right? Why the Bootstrap is not getting installed? Come on, anyone? What are the packages that should be included in the dependency and dev dependencies? Could you please explain the difference between them? We already discussed about the dev guy. Dev dependencies, we'll discuss that, Ravali. Okay, for now, we don't need to concentrate on that. I mean, it is not a showstopper for us, but I will explain that. What is the difference between the dev dependencies and the actual dependencies? Okay, sir, please teach the way you taught today without break interruption so that the course can be completed as it's already delayed. What do you mean by this interruption? I'm not clear. What is today and yesterday? I mean, you mean to say answering the questions or so and so? Is that is what the Jitendra you're talking about? Uh, Jitendra, just can you please tell me what actually that interruptions are? Okay, Ravi, import the bootstrap in app.jsx or main.jsx. It's up to we because like even app.js also works here. The reason is app.jsx is the main component what we are taking, right? But the problem is if we use it under the app.jsx, and for example, we are going to use any other component, something called as ABC over here. In that case, this ABC guy will not get the bootstrap if you put this bootstrap under your app.jsx. Am I clear? If you keep the if you import the bootstrap into the app.jsx, we couldn't able to make use of the bootstrap component into any other component. But if we are sure that we are going to make use only the app component, under the app component we are going to use the sub component, that is fine, that works. But the intention of using the bootstrap under the main.jsx is, now you may use the app, you may go with some sub components or like other child components here, then it will be working fine. I mean, it will be I mean, the bootstrap will be throughout the application. So that is what the reason is. Okay. And 1 second, let us open our React Netflix. Under the Netflix, we are going with this SRC. So at that time, I think we have used inside your app.jsx, right? So this is where we were actually used inside your app.jsx. So as I mentioned, it is not mandated that it has to be here. We can even go with, uh, we can even inject within your main.jsx also. So that like it will be used across app.jsx, at the same time, other components also. Okay. Now, how you're going to make use of this? Let us import the bootstrap. Okay. Under the bootstrap, the dist folder. Under the dist folder, it is CSS and bootstrap. So it is CSS slash bootstrap dot mini dot JCSS. Okay, so we already discussed that if you have to make use of the only the CSS changes, or the CSS classes for rendering the table, this will be fine. You see, it automatically got the CSS. But there are some functionalities also. If you remember, for example, there is a drop down. A drop down has to come. So bootstrap functionality also has to be injected. Okay, like on click something is happening. So in that case, bootstrap functionality also need to be added. That is where we go with something called as import bootstrap, the dist folder, the JS folder, the bootstrap dot mini dot JS file. So if we add both of them, including the bootstrap component look and feel along with the functionality, we are going to get it. Okay. Any questions up to this? Please take all doubts in the start or last. Jitendra, like I mean, that is what I already explained here. Maybe at the initial stage, people will feel the difference. I mean, we'll get an interruption of people continuously putting the questions at the very starting. But once you people get comfortable with these components, etc., and all, we won't be getting those. But my way of thing is I can't make it or start or last, because the problem is, as I already said, you right. If I'm talking about like I'm discussing about 1 to 10 lines, people say there is a doubt at second line. I can't say that I will finish this line number until 10, and then now you ask me the questions. That is not going to happen. Okay, don't go into the way like a faster way of finishing the topics. Instead, make it is more clear. But yeah, I agree. But because like maybe you are understanding the things in the very first go, you're feeling a bit of interruption when I switch between this. Someone ask a different question, I need to go. But yeah, at least for some time until people get comfortable. I'm sure that because when I cross this n number of batches, people will be having some questions at the initial stage, but going forward, they will be so clear and they won't be like keep on asking the questions in between. But again, I'm not saying that you should not ask. My way of thing is I'll just stop the discussion until everyone is clear. I can't go forward. Okay. Okay, Gopi, it's a difficult to clear. Oh, okay, go with some flow. Okay. Please put this note, which CSS need to be added for Bootstrap and where the steps. Rajeshri, this is the one which is, I mean, You need to be clear on this before itself, because I already said this. The prerequisites for our uh, training is you should already have an idea of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and the Bootstrap part. Okay, but anyway, this is the only way we are going to do, right? I mean, do you still see any questions on it? Let me know. Bootstrap, sir, we use the same in the project. Okay, same new for me. Any more questions? Bootstrap and Bootstrap difference. Ravi, if I ask you a question, what is the difference between line number two and line number three? Okay, actually, that's the wrong way I have mentioned that. Like if you say Bootstrap, it is going to come as a module. Okay, if you see what is the difference between this line number two and line number three. In line number three, you're manually going to the CSS and you're injecting the CSS into the component. Whereas coming to the line number two, you are using one of the service from the existing multiple services. Now we see at line number one, I said like strict mode. Do you think only strict mode is their component? Do you think that we have only one strict mode component inside the React? No, right? Under the React, we might be having multiple components, but we are using only one among it. But when I'm coming to line number three, what I'm doing, there is a file called as bootstrap mini.css. You dump all that CSS file into this complete component. That is what the difference is. Did that make clear, Ravi, with your question, difference between these two? Okay. Next, Rashti, how to set background images? That's simple, right? We already discussed. If you remember, how do we get the image? In order to get the image, I say something called as import. Where do I need to get the import here? I say dot slash assets. Okay, assets is the folder. In general, we have to keep it. Now I say import something called as uh, let me get this. Mm, product or else I'll say something called as some background. Okay, this is one of the background image what I have. And assume I'm saving this image under UI classes, React, web application, public folder. Where is my assets? SRC assets. Say something called as uh, page BG. Okay, page BG is the one which I am saving it as. Okay, now what I have to do, first of all, I need to import this. I say import page background from assets. Under that, page bg dot jpeg. Okay, is that is what I have. Okay, it is jpg. Okay, this is what I have. Is that is how we were using the image? No, right? Okay. Now, how you're going to use this guy under the app? If you have to use the background, why the reason we need to go with this page background? We can directly use it as a CSS, right? If we have to use in the image tag, for example, I want to go with the image. For this, we can go with this expression. If you see, this is how I can keep it. And now on your page, import does not provide an export name page background as what am I missing here? We already imported the image, right? So I'm importing this as so and so. What is the confusion? Line number 5, curly brace. No, okay, that is true. Yeah. So if you see here, this is how I'm going to import the image. You see, image is coming onto the page along with the table content, isn't it? But now, if you really want to make use of it as a background image, that we can add it under the CSS only, right? So this is your main.jsx. When you go to your app.jsx, where is your app.css? Under the CSS, if I say for the body, I say background hyphen image URL, I say dot slash under that assets folder, under the images folder, under this is so and so. Now once I come back, reload the page, the background image is not coming. So when you go with the body, it is not adding the background. By the reason, okay, if I say background hyphen color, say something called as yellow, save this and reload the page. This is not at all getting loaded. Why so? Is the app.css loaded? Yes. Okay. The CSS is not getting loaded. Okay, let us say some table, background color, say some blue. Am I running the same file? React Web application. Come on, the CSS is working right earlier. Okay, let us say some h3 tag, text align center. Come back. Why my none of the CSS is getting loaded? React Web application. Okay, let us see our own custom CSS then. Okay, why this tab? Okay, this is not needed. Let's go into this main.jsx app.jsx. Let us say this guy, we are adding a table, something called as my custom table. Okay, another class name. And when I go with my custom table, I say background color. I say green. Don't see that. This table, my custom is coming. It is not actually importing this class. Why so? Am I running a different file? I'm doing something else. Where this app.js is coming? Oh my God. This is the problem, right? I'm doing the changes in Netflix project, expecting the changes from this guy. How come? So this is your React web application. Under this is the index, sorry, app.css. You see, this is where I'm not adding it. So this is the body tag. I say background color, something called as yellow. Once you come back, you see it is happening. Okay, so if you have to use the background image, I can say URL and that dot slash assets page so and so. Now, once I come back here, you see this is how the background image is coming. Okay, so you can add the background for the table, whatever it is, anything you can add it. Any questions up to this, guys? rendering the table, or data binding into the table. In fact, these all things we have already done. Now, the main reason why I have come for this, the table rendering is, what if I would like to put some conditions here? Okay, for example, I say something called as AVG. AVG is going to be something called as, say, some 45.6. Okay. Uh, I would like to say some AVG, which is some 20. Okay, I'd like to say some AVG, which is something called as 40. I'd like to say some AVG, which is something called as 12. And AVG, which is some 90. I'll say some AVG, which is 55. Okay, assume like this is all the uh, like values what I keep. Now when I'm saving this, I come back to this, and I would like to add the AVG also into this. I say TH, which is AVG. Okay, come back. This is how the AVG is coming. How you're going to fill the data? I say this TD is AVG. This detail dot AVG. This is how the data is getting rendered. Now my expectation is a status, or else TH grade is the one what I would like to go for, or else I can say status. Okay, pass or fail. Okay, this is the message what I would like to go for. My expectation is I would like to add some one column where I would like to show whether it is passed or failed. Okay, sometimes when I go with something called as TD, it is passed. If I say passed, this is what is coming. Or if I say something called as fail, I'll be getting it as failed. Now my expectation is I need to show this failed option only for the student who is actually getting less than 40. Like in this case, it should be failed. In this case, it should be failed. Remaining all, it has to commit as a pass. Now I need to put a condition, right? If it is JavaScript, we would have written something like, if it is JavaScript. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to directly put a condition. Boss, if at all your average greater than equal to something called as 40, you're going to create a tag, say some TD with something like this. Okay, which is passed. Okay, if this is not the case, we are going to go for something called as TD, which is like a failed. Isn't it? This is how we have to, we will be writing if it is a plain JavaScript code. But what if it is a JSX? Okay, how you are going to add the conditions within the HTML? Yes, boss, it is even possible to put the conditions within your JSX code also. I mean, within your JavaScript with XML, or within the fragment, or within the markup, you could able to add some condition. Now, what my condition is, you can simply put your conditions by something like this. I'm going to put some another expression. Under this, I'm going to put a condition. What is the condition here? If the detail dot avg greater than is equal to 40, I can go with this ternary operation. If it is, okay, question mark, okay, what is going to happen? I'm going to say it is going to throw something called as a TD, which is passed. Okay, else I'm going to take another condition, which is fail. This is how simple I'm doing. So the best part, what you see is we are adding the condition within the HTML itself. You see, this is what we do in general if it is JavaScript. Okay, if it is JavaScript, now we are going to say that A greater than B, or else I say var result is equal to, if the A is greater than B, you're going to check the condition. If it is true, I will say that 1. Okay, otherwise we are going to say something called as 2. This is what we are going to do. If it is one, if it is A greater than B, if it is true, it will go for the first execution. If it is not, it will go with the second execution. And I am doing the same within your HTML directly. So this is the magic part what you have. This is what the markup is going to provide for us. You could able to add the iteration. You see dot map method. It is a JavaScript code, but you could able to use the JavaScript within your markup. So now I'm going to save this and I'm going to render this. You see, based on the condition, I could able to get either passed or failed. So in this way, we could able to add the conditions even when it is, even when it is within your HTML, you could able to add the conditions also. So any questions up to this? Very simple part, adding the conditions within your HTML. That's it. Is everyone good? Okay. Now the next part what we have is, what if right now what we are doing is we are directly taking the array of students, then I'm going to render it on the page. What if I'm going to take the profile details? I say where user profile. Okay, which is a direct JSON object. Assume like he is having the username, say something called as Prasad. Okay, I say location, something called as so and so. I say, uh, I say pin code, say some so and so. Okay, I say gender, something called as male. What else I can say? Say some designation. Okay, uh, faculty. Assume like this is the data what I have. Now my expectation is I want to render this JSON object. If it is an array, boss, we were directly using the dot map method. What if like I have this like this a JSON object? I want to iterate this. If it is JavaScript, if you would have remember in JavaScript, what we do is for loop for array. And for JSON, what we used to do, we used to go with for in looping for JSON, isn't it? If you guys remember this, this is what we used to do. In case of your JavaScript, we used to then say that for where key in user profile, and we are going to get this key. Okay, if you want to get the value, you say user profile of key. This is what we have done in case of your plain JavaScript. But now under this markup, how you're going to make use of all those. So that is what we are going to learn. And how do we render this JSON data into the UI directly? Okay. So I'll pause it for today, guys. We'll meet again back on tomorrow. I'll try to make it out. Tomorrow is Saturday, but yeah, I'll try to make it out for tomorrow. And yeah, tomorrow we'll discuss about like how do we render this JSON data onto the page. Okay. So please do the enough practice of this. I'm going to submit this React Web Application project, and I'll use this project in order to render whatever the next thing we are going to add, right? So I'll make sure under this sub project, we are going to add all the small things in it. Okay. So have a good day and bye for today, guys.